Sa ating panibagong kalihim at pangalawang Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Sara Zimmerman Duterte, malugod po namin kayong tinatanggap dito sa kagawaran ng edukasyon. Naniniwala po kami na ang kinabukasan ng bawat batang Pilipino ay nasa mabuting mga kamay. Kasama po ninyo kami sa pagtupad ng pangarap ng ating mga mag-aaral.
At sa puntong ito, upang bigyan tayo ng isang mensahe, isa pong malaking karangalan na ipakilala sa inyo. Ang pangalawang Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas at ang bagong puno ng kagawaran ng edukasyon, Sara Z. Duterte.
Assalamualaikum. Maayong hapon kaninyong tanan. Magandang hapon sa inyong lahat. To our Secretary Leonor Magtolis Briones, ladies and gentlemen, you know, when we were discussing the pasasalamat at pagpupugay, the orders of Secretary Briones were that the program this afternoon should be a very happy, a joyous celebration. She wanted everyone to be happy. But surprisingly, I find myself teary-eyed with all the numbers in our program, and I do not know why. And I was thinking maybe it is because I feel a special bond with Secretary Briones, although we have not worked together, but whenever we meet in activities, she was always pleasant to me. She was never condescending with all the achievements in her professional career as compared to me, a very young 44-year-old politician. And she was always generous with her advice. So, I feel sad. Parang namimiss, kahit na hindi kami magkatrabaho, parang namimiss ko si Secretary Briones sa darating ko na trabaho. And I'm truly happy that she committed to stay on as a consultant for the Office of the Secretary of the Department of Education. Sa totoo lang, ma'am, kanina, you were worried about the time that it was taking you sa speech mo. I wasn't worried because I was actually silently cheering you on the way that you were feisty, with classy, with your lecture sa lahat ng mga Pilipino. Ang inaalala ko lang kanina talaga, ma'am, is yung tuhod at yung legs. Because if I were standing that long, hinubad ko na po ang heels ko. Today, we will honor the men and women of the Department of Education who stood firm and demonstrated great tenacity and courage to ensure that DepEd will be able to fulfill its mandate to the Filipino children at all times, even at the height of the onslaught of the COVID-19 pandemic. Headed by Secretary Leonor Magtolis Briones, DepEd adopted and implemented bold but necessary measures to provide Filipino children accessible and quality education, ensuring that learning is unhampered and our learners are not left out, while also ensuring the economic welfare of our teachers and the non-teaching personnel working under the organization. Secretary Liling is a force. And I am humbled and honored to follow in the footsteps of a much admired academic, public servant, social activist, and change maker. I would also like to acknowledge the equally devoted men and women, our undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, who supported Ma'am Liling in the last 6 years. Daghang salamat kaninyo. When we talk about governance and public service, we talk about dedication, commitment, integrity, and selflessness. Pinakyaw na yata ito lahat ni Secretary Liling. At nagpapasalamat kami na hindi niya ito ipinagdamot sa ating lahat. Sa kanyang pangunguna, ipinakita ni Secretary Liling kung paano natin mabibigyan ng mas makabuluhang na tulong ang sektor ng edukasyon sa pamamagitan ng pagtuon sa mga issue at mga problema ng mga kabataan at pagbibigay ng solusyon sa mga ito. Ma'am Liling, you have completed your mission, you fought the good fight, and we are all here today to celebrate the victories that you and the entire Department of Education have collected over the past 6 years of the Duterte administration. As you say, educational gains. And we were all witnesses as DepEd pushed the full implementation of the senior high school program that eventually allowed parents and students to see its significance in providing our graduates with necessary skills relevant to today's dynamic workforce. Thanks to Secretary Liling, thanks to this team, our public school teachers now earn more than their counterparts in the private sector. Indeed, you have broken a glass ceiling in Philippine education history. While the challenges emanating from the COVID-19 pandemic, Secretary Liling's light shone the brightest as a leader, an educator, and a Filipina who has a deep concern for the education sector and love of country. Secretary Liling and the whole Department of Education organization never cowered in the face of disapproval, public frustration, and pressure. When some sectors called for an academic freeze, the response was academic ease. And it was a brilliant, appropriate, and timely response, made with will and resolve and foresight that our children's learning is shielded from the adverse impacts of the pandemic. When you said, education must continue, education must never stop, it was a statement that defined the direction of DepEd under your watch. You soldiered on for the sake of the Filipino children, and the entire Department of Education followed suit. And as I take the task of being the next Secretary of the Department of Education, I take inspiration from you, from your courage, dedication, your commitment, your integrity, selflessness, and your grace. But I will also take the task with a reminder that we shall continue to find ways to improve basic education in terms of access, equity, quality, resiliency, and governance. to produce learners who can achieve their full potential as individuals who are responsible, skilled, knowledgeable, productive, and determined to achieve their dreams for themselves and for our country. We look forward to working with you as we take on the task of helping our children become our country's assets. Maraming salamat, mabuhay kayong lahat. Ako po si Inday Sara, mahalin natin ang ating mga learners, mahalin natin ang Pilipinas.
Maraming salamat po, kalihim at pangalawang Pangulo ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Sara Z. Duterte. Kasama mo po kami, ang buong kagawaran ng edukasyon, sa pagsasakatuparan ng mga inisyatiba ng makapaghahatid ng dekalidad na edukasyon para sa kabataang Pilipino.